Tonight, Supergirl hits those angsty teen years and thinks that she doesn't have any friends. Captain Atom is so powerful that he can literally raise the dead while in his sleep. And Catwoman makes sex noises, because of course she does. All that and more tonight on the Not So New 52. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 46 of the Not So New 52. I am your host, and funny story, it is the night before this episode is supposed to be released. In fact, it goes up in just a little bit over 12 hours, and turns out that the intro section, this section right here, didn't actually record properly, so I'm now recording this in the dead of night, hopefully not waking up my neighbors, so that this show can be at least a little bit cohesive. Things I talked about the last time, I learned how to do a Rubik's Cube over the weekend, so that was cool. And in news from 10 years ago, turns out that Duane "The Rock" Johnson, about to play Black Adam in the DCEU, was 10 years ago slated to play Lobo. Isn't that neat? Anyway, let's talk about comics coming up. This week, we have the number 11 issues of Batwoman, Birds of Prey, Catwoman, Nightwing, Red Hood and the Outlaws, Supergirl, Green Lantern Corps, Captain Atom, DC Universe Presents, Justice League, Wonder Woman, Blue Beetle, and Legion of Superheroes. Got it? Great, good. Let's just jump into books because I am out of time. Batwoman 11, written by W. Haden Blackman and J.H. Williams III, art by Trevor McCarthy and Perez. Last issue left off with Batwoman and Soon fighting briefly to discover that Soon is actually Morrow, the guy who's been making monsters and can also shapeshift. And this issue is basically just the wrap-up, and I've been very critical on this arc because of its non-linear storytelling and how not difficult it is to keep track of everything, but just annoying it is. This one is told mostly in linear order, so I'm just going to recount it in linear order here. So we open up with Soon, now Morrow, revealing like, "Hi, I'm Morrow, I make monsters, and I consider myself to be a bit of a god. Falchion there is now dead, and I am absorbing his power, and I'm also a shapeshifter, by the way. So, any questions here?" And Batwoman's like, "Nah, you're just kind of a dick." So they get into a fight, obviously. Maria, the La Llorona ghost, is trying to flood her lungs, apparently. But during the middle of the fight, as she's being held busy with Maria, Morrow opens up a portal to the Mother character, who I believe has been mentioned before, and has all the kids and the Alice character, Bloody Mary character, and the Hook-Handed Man, and just has them all in the portal, and it's just like, "All right, everyone, hop on in. We're gonna go to the mother of all monsters," or whatever. And Batwoman's still pleading, believing that this is Soon, believing this is the person that she had a connection with, which I feel like is kind of like, no, once they shapeshift, you should know you were played, Batwoman. But regardless, at that point, Chase busts in, gun poised at Morrow, and it's like, "All right, freeze. Like, I'm going to shoot you if you try to do anything else with those kids." And before she can take the shot, Batwoman knocks her out of, again, some misplaced thing of, no, this is this person I connected with. Morrow's still shot in the shoulder, but they do manage to make their escape through this portal. Croc and Maria are left behind to deal with Batwoman and Chase. So at that point, Chase wakes up and is like, "Batwoman, you idiot. We're never going to get that chance again." And she's like, "Yeah, all right, sorry. We'll deal with it. I'll deal with it my own way. But we got to get out of here because they're flooding the place." So they start swimming their way up. Croc starts attacking them. Kate sends Chase up ahead of her as she deals with Croc. And we see up on the surface, Maggie Sawyer is actually responding to a disturbance because, there's been a whole bunch of magic stuff off this harbor. So there's this giant water explosion as Chase gets up on land and basically is like, just telling Maggie, like, Batwoman literally ruined everything. She cost the lives of all those kids directly. This is because of her. And we see Kate has surfaced in the middle of seeing this conversation. It's just like, good, great. Now Maggie thinks that Batwoman's even worse than she was before. Then we get a 2-page little epilogue here, but before I get to that, there is 1 page in here of Colonel Kane talking to Bet in the hospital still, and basically just saying, hey, look, they made the decision to pull the plug and harvest your organs, so I need you to wake up right now. And so she's still asleep, and he's like, all right, wake up now, soldier, up and at him. Still asleep, and he's like, if you wake up right now, I promise I will teach you everything that Kate refused to show you. And at that, finally Bet opens her eyes, and she's like, hey, Uncle Jake. And now he has to hold his agreement with her. So anyway, 2-page little epilogue here. We get Kate talking to Maggie and basically like, yeah, so I was kissed earlier, just at the gala. That was a thing, but I didn't kiss back, and I swear it was nothing. And she decides, all right, look, you want me to open up to you. You want me to tell you my past. Here's my past. And she pulls out a memory box of photos of her mother and father and even her sister and just starts opening up on all the past things they've been through. And Maggie, in return, reveals her little secret that she actually has a daughter named Jamie. And it turns out that her and her ex-husband split up because Maggie was getting more and more deeply involved in the police force, and she was also figuring out that she wasn't exactly heterosexual. So at that point, they decided to call it splits, and she doesn't really have any visitation rights or anything like that with her daughter, but she does still love her and still wants to be in her life. So they bond over this, and they have some fun and ask each other questions and just get a little bit closer. But then the final page, cliffhanger, is the portal that all the children went through. We see it arrived in this dank temple-looking place, and Morrow is in a wolf form, and it's just like, hey, mother, calls him Mitera. Falchion died, killed by Batwoman, definitely Batwoman, not anyone else. And the mother of all monsters, Mitera, is like, don't worry about it. Soon everyone, including Batwoman, will be devoured by the mother of all monsters. And that's where it leaves off. So, like I said, I've been critical of this arc because of the nonlinear storytelling, and not so much that it's bad or that it's hard to keep track of, but that it's just annoying to keep track of. And now seeing the entire story played out, I can see that they did it mainly because the first 3 issues, if they did it linearly, would have been an incredible slog. Like, all of the action was on the last issue, if this were in order, maybe the last 2. But I still don't think that really excuses it, because you could have just rewritten the story to suit the linear storytelling. The conscious choice was made here to tell it out of order, and it didn't work for me. That's me personally. That's the way I see it. Maybe if you read this all in one go, it'd make a lot more sense, but having split it up over the course of 5 months now, it took way too long between issues, and I was forgetting a lot of stuff. So overall, I don't want to give this issue a particularly bad rating, because on its own it's fine, but it is bearing the brunt of the entire arc that came before it. So as such, I really can't give it any higher than a 6. May seem a bit harsh, but it's just how I'm feeling on this. Art-wise is also, everything's fine, everything's good, nothing's particularly standout amazing. There's one cool panel of Morrow mid-shapeshift, but that's really all I can give for it, and that's not worth an extra half point. So 6 for this. Starting a new arc next time. It says, see Batwoman in World's Finest, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm just glad this arc is pretty much over now. Birds of Prey, number 11, written by Duane Swierczynski, art by Foreman and Timothy Green. The second last issue, we left off with the group of the Birds of Prey making their way through some jungle in order to try to save Ivy's life. They came across a building, and Ivy said, bring me inside. And this basically is just the continuation of that, but we do a quick, I want to say flash ahead, but it says it's now, so in reality, this story takes place a week ago. So anyway, right now, there's some big building, some business, and they're just like, yes, we're going to do something that makes so much money. And then a person chimes up and is like, but it will also destroy the environment. Isn't that a problem? And they'll go, ha, 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 we'll be making so much money, the environment won't even matter to us. To which point, Poison Ivy busts into the room, vines are flailing, and says, okay, well, I'm going to kill you now. Then we cut back 1 week to the Amazon, and they're making their way through this building. They're being chased down by these weird plant monster things. And Poison Ivy keeps on telling them, like, hey, get me deeper inside. You got to get me all the way to the bottom level of this place, and then I will explain everything. And there is no time to argue as they're trying to hold back all these plant monsters. The one guy that was with them who flew them down into the Amazon, Layden, he gets his neck snapped. So, bye, Layden. But the rest of them finally make their way down to the bottom, and they bring Poison Ivy into just this essentially greenhouse-looking place, which, by the way, still has, like, open roof, like, sun access. So I don't know how they're deep in this facility with that, but regardless, she lays down and just starts, like, embracing the green in this place, and she's like, okay, here's the deal. This place belongs to a certain green positive company, which provided me my new outfit called a biosuit, and it gave me super enhanced abilities. But in doing so, turns out that I'm dying, and I only have 6 months left to live. And everyone's like, oh my God, Ivy, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. And she's like, yeah, don't worry about it. So then we flash back to the now scene in the business, and Ivy's got her tentacles around everybody, her vines, I mean, and Chief of Security comes in wearing what looks like a flamethrower, but it turns out to be a toxic defoliant, which will kill all plant life, so like nothing can ever grow back. And Poison Ivy's like, all right, go ahead and shoot, but you'll end up killing several members of your board if you do. And then the Chief of Security just looks over to the president of the company being like, hey, is it okay if I kill several members of the board? And he's like, yeah, whatever. And so then the members are like, are you serious right now? So then we cut back to a week ago again. And she says, like, by the way, these things, they're called perennials. They are pale imitations of me. Like, the company was trying to redo the human-plant hybrid that is me. And these are the results. All failures. But, yeah, no, I just want you guys to know that everything I did for the good of the team, okay? And they're like, what are you talking about, Ivy? And Ivy talks to the perennials and says, like, hey, guys, you can stand down. And then they all just stop. And Black Canary's like, I'm sorry, could you have done that at literally any point earlier? And she's like, yeah, I could. But there's a reason I wanted you down here. See, I've infected all of you with a toxin that's in your bloodstreams, and you've only got 6 months left to live. And everyone is, of course, understandably upset by that. And they all start trying to attack her. She just fights them all off, throwing them all aside. And basically what she's saying is, you need to help me. I'm going to go do some eco-terrorist things, and I need you guys to help me out with that. And they're all like, go to hell. And she's like, fair enough. But if you don't, like, I'll give you the antidote after 6 months if you help me. Like, I have it. I made the toxin. I can give you the antidote. But this is my last hurrah, and I need you to do this for me. If you don't, and any of you end up dying, the toxin in your bloodstream is like a spore thing, and it'll go out and infect other people, and then they'll infect other people until literally everyone in the world is dead within like a year's time. So, you know, they're like, all right, you've got us in a tight situation here, Poison Ivy, but to make no mistake, we aren't friends anymore. To which Poison Ivy's like, yeah, whatever. Oh, that wasn't really on my radar. So then we cut back to now. The guy fires the plant defoliant, and as he goes to do so, the birds of prey bust into the building, and everyone is just like, oh, thank God, the birds of prey, Batgirl specifically. You're upstanding, law-abiding citizens of the crime-fighting community. You'll stop this terrorist, won't you? To which Starling then pulls out a gun, aims it at the chairman's head, and pulls the trigger. And that's where we leave off, is now everyone's just kind of working for Poison Ivy and her eco-terrorist stuff before she dies in 6 months. I gotta say, I've been really hard on this book for probably, I think, like 5 or 6 issues now, because it just felt kind of aimless. Last issue still felt aimless, but now that I know this is what it was leading up to, I like it. I think it's a solid direction for the book of, okay, the birds of prey, who are already in kind of hot water in terms of people think they're all murderers, is now going on an eco-terrorist thing against their will. I don't know. I enjoy that concept. I think it's a nice way to move forward with this book. It's giving it some sort of direction, which is very definitely needed. Art-wise, I do love Travel Foreman, but I don't know what they're doing to his art here. Maybe this is Timothy Green's art that I'm looking at, but boy, is it shaky in a lot of places. I don't even know what to put it on, honestly. I feel like I can tell the difference between the Timothy Green stuff and the Travel Foreman stuff, but it's shaky. So no points for art, unfortunately. For writing, though, I'm going to give it a 6.5. I think it's finally got a good direction. It's been spinning its wheels for so long. I'm just happy to see that they're doing something that is, just a basic-ass story. They're not trying to run before they can walk here. It's just a basic story of, hey, Poison Ivy's blackmailing us, and we have to do morally questionable things, as is the Birds of Prey nature. So, no, I'm interested in it, at least to see where it goes. I don't know if the artists continue over the course of it. If so, there might be some points deducted, because I really cannot overstate how shaky it is. But I'm at least interested. That's got to count for something. Catwoman number 11, written by Judd, Winick, art by Adriana, Melo. Last issue left off with Catwoman breaking into Detective Alvarez's apartment in order to stage a meetup with him, and we found out that whatever the guy's name is, Spark, I think it is, he's working with the dirty cops. So this issue picks up, Catwoman's in the kitchen with Alvarez, and immediately he springs for his gun. Catwoman's like, oops, sorry, I already unloaded it. Now, can we please just talk for a little bit? And he immediately goes to tackle her. Big fight scene breaks out as she's just trying to explain, like, hey, for the love of God, I just want to talk. There's one point in here where, a whole bunch of dishes are being smashed and stuff like that, and she makes the comment of like, uh-oh, we're making too much noise in this apartment, and the neighbors will hear. And we see an old woman standing outside the door being like, are you all right in there, Carlos? And then Catwoman says how if you just let out a sexy moan, either people are going to listen in or trot away. And she was hedging her bets on trotting away. So the old lady leaves. Sure, why not? Anyway, she manages to get Alvarez in a headlock and just like, hey, listen to me. We've had like 26 different street workers all go missing. Nobody's looking for them. I need you to figure out why. Here's a flash drive with all the stuff I found on it. Read it, and I know you're a good cop, so good luck. So she makes her escape, and we see that Spark was watching over on the rooftop nearby, seeing how she actually went and talked to the cops. So then we cut over to Dollhouse real quick, and he's apparently fulfilling an order of, like, people who are asking for organs and stuff like that. He's like, yes, of course, you will get your clean and healthy organs. Don't worry, we've got several candidates lined up. And he looks at his security cam and sees someone laying face down in a pile of their own blood, and he's like, no, come on, stay alive, and he runs down the halls, and he's like, dang it, I needed you to stay alive. You've been dead for too long now. I needed that. I'm going to have to go and get some more people. He's specifically using that needs to refill their coffers. So he needs to go out and get some more people. There's a one-page little cutaway here of, I forget her name, Gwen, Selena's fencer. Basically, she's just calling Selena because Selena's not answering for like several days now. And she's like, hey, just call me back whenever. But then she's stopped on the street by some big bodyguard guy who puts her in the back of a limo. And there's someone in the limo who says, from what I hear, I can give you some information regarding Selena Kyle. And the person is in silhouette, but they have a very definite hook nose. So I'm just putting my money down on Penguin. There are no odds for that. So Catwoman then breaks into an apartment. I guess there's a whole bunch of buildings that are not being used or something, and she just breaks into one because she needs a place to stay for the night. And when she got in there, Spark was already there waiting, and they make out and are about to have sex until Selena's phone rings, and it's Detective Alvarez who's read through all the documents and whatnot, and he's like, okay, here's the deal. I've got it narrowed down to 1 in 3 places where this guy's going to strike, and he's probably going to strike soon. So you go and like get over to one of these places. I'll be over at this place, and then I guess we'll let the third go. And she's like, oh, I got another guy on my side. And he's like, cool, what's his name? And he's like, I'm not giving my name. Screw you. And Alvarez spends like a weird amount of time trying to get on his good side, whereas Spark is just telling Selena, like, this is stupid. Why are we working with a cop? And she's like, he's a good cop. Like, we can trust him. So then they see a van drive by and a cloaked figure get out. So they're like, oh, that's it. I got the guy. And this is on Spark's side of things. So they start making their way over towards Sparks' area. But then Selena sees another van and another cloaked guy. He's like, wait a minute, I got the guy. I don't know who you got, but I got the one here. And they get both of them all riled up. And they unhood them and see that they're just pretty much random homeless guys who are like, he paid me $1,000 to drive this van out here and pick up this stuff. And we see both of them are getting the same thing. So like, okay, so these are diversions. Where's the real one? And we see the one that Alvarez would out. He has a flash grenade thrown into his car, and then the real one shows up, and he's got on this weird, like, doll face, like just this smiling, cracked image, while he just starts firing a Gatling gun of tranq darts at all of the street workers in front of him. And Alvarez is pretty much knocked out, can't really do anything. Catwoman's speeding across town trying to get there in time, but by the time she gets there, everyone is knocked out. All the streetwalkers that weren't grabbed because he had a limited amount of time are just laying in the street. But Alvarez's car is empty and he's nowhere to be found. So, oopsie daisy. So, pretty basic issue overall. It doesn't, like, I think this is just kind of the setup for, okay, now the stakes are even higher because she got Alvarez involved in this. Which, okay, fine. Like, I don't know. I don't feel like it would have had any more stakes as if, like, she just befriended a random street worker and then that worker got caught up. Like, it seems pretty cut and dry. It's just the next part of the story. Nothing really incredible about it, but also nothing disappointing, I guess. So, I don't know. The only thing I can really give it is that we finally got the reveal of the villain unhooded. And it's creepy. It's weird. It doesn't really stand out specifically, especially since I think it was in Detective Comics, not a year earlier, obviously. We had the villain of the Dollmaker. So, I don't know. It just feels a little bit, are we doing the exact same thing here? Is this someone who works with the Dollmaker? Is this Dollmaker himself? I don't know, but it seems strange that we're treading over that ground already, within the same family of books at that. So, overall, I guess I would give this one I give it a 6. Nothing really stands out in this issue. It's just, it's okay. It's a perfectly okay issue. But at no point is anyone ever going to say the sentence, oh boy, Catwoman number 11 was my all-time favorite. Because there is literally nothing in here that could be a favorite. Nightwing number 11, written by Kyle Higgins, art by Andre Guinaldo. Last issue left off with Nightwing stumbling across the Republic of Tomorrow, led by their leader Paragon, who, I don't know, wants to save the city by killing Nightwing, because Nightwing is framed for killing possibly 2 members of the gang themselves. Anyway, Nightwing, he gets to his feet and he's like, alright guys, I bet I can't convince you to go ahead and just leave, right? And of course they don't. So he's like, all right, well, worth a try. So then they get into just this giant-ass fight scene. And Nightwing keeps on telling him, like, hey, look, if you guys are actually working, like, to improve the city, we're on the same side here. I didn't kill your brothers in arms or whatever. I just want to make that very clear to you. But they go about just keep on shooting at him, keep on attacking. And Paragon just goes on these long-winded diatribes of like, oh, we will strike back against the false idols that appoint themselves as saviors, who attract death and worship destruction. So, who cares? Point being is that at one point, Nightwing is hiding behind a piece of debris as he's giving one of these monologues, and Nightwing shoots a sonic disruptor thing in order to knock everybody out, more or less. And while Nightwing has ear dampeners, also Paragon has some level of dealing with it as well. Because when Nightwing jumps out, Paragon attacks, and they're up in a clock tower, and the clock face literally just falls out of the tower as he attacks. So Nightwing sets up like a bungee cord in order to go down, and he's like, all right, I can't, it's falling too fast, I can't manage to catch up with it, so I just have to disperse it before it hits the crowd beneath. And he shoots some explosives and just blows it up. And everyone underneath is just like, what the heck? What's going on around here? And he's like, sorry, I can't stay to talk. I'm literally on a bungee cord. Boing. And he goes back up. And by the time he gets back up there, literally they're all gone. And he's like, all right, cool. So the guy almost drops a clock on the middle of a bunch of people down in Gotham. But he's the hero here, of course. So we cut over to Gotham City Police Department, where we have Detective Nye, the one who is really got to stick up his ass about implicating Nightwing here. And Nightwing just goes to visit him. It's just like, hey, what are you doing, man? Like, I hope you know that I'm not involved in that. And now he's like, well, I've got my version of events, and they're all saying that you're definitely the one who's behind it. The entire reason Nightwing's doing this is just to basically do a scan on his cell phone and see if he's contacting anyone and like being able to put a trace on it and whatnot. So they just get in an argument about whether or not who's the real villain here, or whatever. And then we cut back over to the Republic of Tomorrow and Paragon, who have made their way down to the sewer system to hide. And basically everyone in the Republic is like, okay, look, we're all really roughed up here. I thought this was going to be like something cool, but I can't hear out of my left ear anymore. And Vinny lost a leg. So I'm done. I quit. And a lot of people are saying the exact same things. And Paragon's like, hey, you all joined because Batman ruined your life in some way. He killed your sister, didn't he, Vinny? And Vinny's, bleeding out in the corner. But he's like, I can't believe you all are so weak. You're so pathetic. And Paragon goes around and just kills all of them. So no more Republic of Tomorrow, just Paragon. Then we get, how Dick Grayson was trying to buy that circus, theme park, amusement land, whatever. We just get 2 pages on that where Sonia Branch, the daughter of Tony Zuko, shows up and is just like, she's just at Dick's apartment. And of course, there's a 1-panel thing here of how he left out a piece of the Nightwing armor that doesn't come back at all. But regardless, she's basically saying, hey, so here's the deal. We're denying your application for a loan mainly because you were directly involved in that whole thing where Gotham's, like, the circus, Haley's Circus, burnt to the ground and nearly killed a bunch of people. So, yeah, we're just thinking you're a bit of a risk. And Nightwing's just like, this is because of who I am and who your dad is, huh? You can't step out of that shadow. That's why you're denying me? And so Sonya gets all pissed off, and she's like, no, actually, I voted for you. This is a board decision. And the board voted against you. I was with you. But yeah, no, nice to see you're a dick. Bye, Dick. So he leaves, and Nightwing's like, I should have been better about that. So Nightwing goes to the Batcave, just trying to use the Bat computers to figure out what he can about Detective Nye's phone. And Damian shows up, and it's just like, hey, so what's going on, man? And Nightwing is basically like, you ever feel like everything you do is just making things worse? Like constantly? And Damian's like, no, I'm pretty much perfect in my own way. So sorry you're feeling that way. But basically what this all came out for is that Damian just makes an offhanded comment of like, well, you think I just wear this Robin suit for fun? And Grayson makes the point of like, wait a minute, this is about making statements. That's what this is all about. So we then get a little cut between of multiple stuff here. But the long and short of it is that Dick, he realizes the picture that he had of the 2 people that he supposedly framed that were missing their tattoos. He found a picture where their tattoos were already gone before they died. So clearly, like, how did that happen? You would imagine they would be removed post-mortem in order to remove any affiliation with this club. And Dick also puts together that Nye isn't the one who's behind all this. He's not actually implicit in anything going on here. But he knows who the Strayhorn brothers really are. We don't get that reveal yet because of the other plot going on, which is Detective Nye is being sat down by Jim Gordon and the deputy mayor and basically saying, hey, look, you're off this Nightwing case. We're putting in other people because you are way too close to this. And he's like, yeah, well, I told you I'd sue. And the deputy mayor's like, no, he's got City Hall on his side, dude. You're not going to sue. What is it with you and not, like, what's going on here? And it turns out that way back in, like, issue 3, when, I can't even remember his name, but the dude with, like, the claws on his hands was going around and he killed some cops. Turns out that Detective Nye was in love with one of those cops. He was in a relationship with one of them. And as such, he directly blames Nightwing and all the costumed heroes and all that for his lover's death. So that's a thing. But regardless, he's like, all right, you're off the case, Detective Nye, but I'm very sorry to hear about your ex-lover. So then we see Detective Nye in his apartment, and he's just looking at a picture, and then all of a sudden, Paragon shows up behind him, and he's like, oh boy, Detective, do I have a case for you. And that's where we leave off. It's fine, it's good. I mean, I don't dislike it, but, like, I don't feel like it's letting me sit with anything, you know? Like, the whole Detective Nye thing, maybe I was supposed to get it earlier. Maybe I was supposed to be like, oh, yeah, no, Detective Nye, he seems like a good suspect. But, like, by the time that Nightwing's already bringing it up that he is a suspect, like, 2 pages later, he's just like, nah, turns out he isn't because of this other thing that the audience couldn't possibly have known. I don't know. It's also, I'm not getting the feel of, like, what is Paragon actually working for here? I know the vague, like, oh, costumed heroes are ruining Gotham. But, like, specifically, like, what's the end goal here? He's just kind of a vague, oh, Nightwing is evil. And that is enough to make a paramilitary organization? I don't know. I'm not quite getting the goal of this real quick. I think we lost the original pitch of Nightwing was framed for murder in a sea of, like, 40 other things. So overall, though, I would give this one a 6.5. Art is actually pretty good throughout. There is some problem with Nightwing's face over the course of the first half of the issue, but it gets worked out later on. But yeah, no, it's just okay. I don't have anything that horrible to say about it, but it's also not blowing my hair back. It's just a very average issue overall. Red Hood and the Outlaws, number 11, written by Scott Lobdell, art by Kenneth Rocafort. Last issue we left off with Starfire ending up on a ship and commanding a whole bunch of other ships who are about to attack her, like, stand down and I might let you live. This issue picks up with all the cool parts already having happened, and we end up with Arsenal being captured by these aliens, and apparently they blew up a bunch of their ships. And now Starfire and the rest of her team is off in hiding somewhere. I guess. I don't know. So they're called the Blight, and the rest of the issue is basically told through the framing device of Arsenal is telling the story because he's being interrogated of, like, where is Commander Coriander and why is she here at all? So we see, okay, Starfire, she commanded this ship, she did all this stuff, and she fires all these blasts and just destroys the alien fleet. And everyone on board is like, yeah, we did it, good job, except for Starfire, who's sitting there like, hey, the fight's not over yet, we still gotta make it into orbit and find my sister, free our people, and all that, so let's cool the jets. By the way, Jason and Roy, I need to talk to you. So they take a step outside, and basically she's just like, here's the deal. I don't care about any of this. Like, I genuinely don't care about fighting for my planet. I need you guys to convince me that I'm wrong. Then we real quick cut over to Isabel, aka Jason's date, who got sucked up into this whole thing. And she's just given a gun because the one guy on the ship's like, hey, things might get a little bit dangerous up here. You're in good hands. Like, don't worry about that, but it's probably better that you are able to fight for yourself, you know? So she's like, yeah, cool. I'm going to go check in with Jason, and she just leaves. So then we get the breakdown of why Starfire doesn't care about any of this, and basically it comes down to she was living a happy life. Her sister was young, but still a solid ruler, but during all the attacks on their planet and whatnot, she was basically given up by her sister at one point in order to maintain peace. She was sold into slavery. And she always resented the fact that over the course of her entire time as a slave, no one from her home planet ever came for her. She was just left there. And eventually she got her own way out. She built up her own thing and came back to her planet. And everyone was like, hooray, the princess has returned. But she was like, you didn't care to come get me. So eventually she just managed to take control of the ship and live out as a wanderer. And she's just basically asking Roy and Jason, like, am I wrong to, like, just want to leave? Like, yeah, I know I came up here to do my thing, but screw them, right? And Jason's like, yeah, no, totally. Look, we've got a good thing going down on Earth. You don't have to worry about any of that. And Roy's like, dude, shut up. Shut your mouth. And he talks to Starfire and is just like, hey, you're a good person. That's the reason you do these things. It's not about whether or not they abandon you or whatever. It's not about what happened in the past. It's that you do the right thing. And that's why you're so super amazing, awesome, and we definitely have a romance going on. And Starfire seemingly making a choice as Isabel comes back in. And Jason basically just apologizes for the date, but she's like, oh, no, don't worry about it. The date that I was going on, like, before we got sucked up, like, with your little alter ego thing, that was the most boring date of all time. This is at least entertaining. And they're just like, okay, sorry, thanks, I guess. So at this point, the aliens interrupt Roy and are just like, what are you talking about, dude? Why are you... None of this is relevant to what we were asking you about. And he's like, I mean, it all is part of the story. You just got to listen to the thing. And then this voice from off panel is like, he's just delaying. He's hoping that somebody's going to show up and save him. But mark my words, nobody's going to save you, Roy Harper. Now tell me. And we see who it is. And she's like, tell me where my sister is. And it turns out it's Blackfire, a.k.a. Starfire's sister. So, yeah, that's that. And there's a backup story to this, but I'll say that on a fifth week. I like it in the sense that it's giving just a moment of character development while also managing to forward the plot. Like, we know the fact that Arsenal is going to be captured, and we know the fact that they are hiding somehow. But it also gives that moment of, okay, does Starfire actually care to help at all? Is she there for any positive reasons, really? So, I don't know. It tells a good story. It's got a good beat going on there. I would say if I had any qualm with it at all, it's that it may not get as far as I would like. After all that really happened in terms of the actual plot itself is they blew up the ships, and that happened in the past. Like, this was just an issue of reveals, is basically what it was. It was just setting up all the pieces of, like, here's how this person feels about this thing, here's how this person feels about that thing. Okay, we're good. Moving on. So in that regard, I can't disrespect it that much, but it's got its own thing going on. I'll go ahead and give it I'll give it a 6.5. And I'm really close to 7, but I have 7 listed here on my paper as a solid read. And I can't justify that. So 6.5. It has its issues, but it's still good. It's still solid. I was about to say solid read. It's still a decent read overall. Art, of course, is fantastic the whole way through, so no real problems on that either. So, yeah, and check out the backup. I think that covers, what's her name? Essence was her name? I don't know. I'll be covering that on the 5th week, though. Supergirl number 11, written by Michael Green and Mike Johnson, art by Mahmud Asrar. Last issue left off with a new villain showing up that has some sort of nanobot, whatever, majigger. And also now Supergirl's in a team with Shaban and her brother Tommy, who just came back from inside her father. It's all a bit confusing. Just watch the episode. So we see Supergirl looking over the Earth, and she's like, man, Earth is pretty cool, but if there's one thing I know, it's that it will never feel like my home. And she zooms back down into New York, down into Shaban's apartment, and comes across Tommy just getting out of the shower. And he's like, whoa, hey, what are you doing here? I mean, you're a pretty girl, and here I am standing in nothing but a towel. And then Shaban comes in and it's just like, hey, what's going on here? And he's basically, Shaban just chews out her brother for Like, hey, look, she doesn't know Earth customs. Why are you standing out in the middle of my living room anyway in a towel? Go into the bathroom and change, and I'll deal with you when I come out. So Shaban says, like, all right, here's the deal. We're going out, and we're going to show you how to have fun here in New York, because the first time didn't go out so well. So she also sets up a thing of Tommy may like Kara in some regard, of having a crush on her. And so she's having Tommy go out and show her, like, a date, pretty much. So they go to a pizza place, and Supergirl's like, Tommy's just talking at Kara. Nothing's getting through. And Supergirl's like, okay, there's a lot of people here. And she goes and she has a bite of pizza and just takes it off of someone else's tray. And she's like, dude, you can't. Tommy's like, I'm sorry. She's from another country. Like, just let it go. But then Supergirl's senses start going haywire again. She's able to hear everything and smell everything and see everything. And so she has to get out of that place quickly. And as soon as she does, a cop shows up and just like, is there a problem here? And Tommy's like, no, not at all. To which we then see the cop transform T-1000 style into the nanobot thing. And she's like, ha, I didn't think it'd be this easy to find you. So they get into a bit of a fight. Tommy tries to throw a punch or two, and he just gets absorbed into like a bunch of nanobots. He's still standing there. He's just coated in nanobots and can't move. So then Supergirl starts charging. And there's just an extended fight scene here where it's just like, haha, I've been looking for someone to provide me with a good fight. And he's able to like duplicate himself with the nanobots. He's able to absorb any blows that she throws. Like, there's nothing that she can seemingly do to stop this guy. And as best as she tries, she's like, okay, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. But her senses, again, start going haywire. But this time she's like, wait a minute, I can focus it. I can use it for my advantage. And her X-ray vision goes off, and she sees inside this guy's nanobot suit is still just a human body. It's still just like she sees his skeleton. And then inside of that, inside the skull, she sees a tiny little metal orb. So she uses her X-ray vision, her super microvision, whatever, and her heat vision all in concert, and basically lobotomizes the guy. Like, it's just heat vision straight through the skull in order to melt this orb. And immediately he shuts down, all of his nanobots fall apart, and he just collapses on the ground. And it specifically says he's alive, but like, how much though? That's the real question. So she goes back, checks on Tommy. Tommy's getting out of his nanobot goop, and immediately a crowd's starting to form like, hey, wait a minute, that's Supergirl. And it's like, isn't she the dangerous one? No, she's the cool one. So she picks up Tommy. They fly back home. And Shaban's like, oh, man, I missed a cool fight. I would have totally gotten in there with my Banshee powers, and wham, boom, bam. And Supergirl is immediately like, no, look, here's the deal. He came after me. Like, he was specifically talking about coming after me. So I am putting you guys at danger, and I can't live with that. Therefore, I must go my own way. Yawn. So then Tommy is like, well, Shaban's about to relay the information. Tommy's like, I think I understand. And you can tell her that I understand. It's fine. We'll be here whenever she wants to come back. And Shaban then relays the message like, he says you're stupid and definitely shouldn't leave, and that's a terrible idea. And Kara's like, he didn't say that. And he's like, no, he didn't say that. Oh, okay. Bye, best buddy. I hope to see you again soon. And she flies away off to find whatever she's got to find. Why? I really liked what they were setting up there. I thought it was a good little, okay, here's something that we can do. And then we're just doing this thing of like, no, I'm putting you at risk. Dude, she is Banshee powers. She is literally magic. She can handle herself. And as for Tommy, who cares about Tommy? Why you gotta do me like that? It's annoying to me because I do actually, I was happy that we were making the transition from, oh no, this planet, I have to go find out what happened to Krypton, to, okay, I'm making a place for myself here on Earth. And it felt like that was a good first step with Shaban, and now she's just undoing all that because I'm putting you in danger. So, also, it only lasted like 3 issues, which is also upsetting, but that's on me. So, overall, a bit lackluster. I'm not a fan of the storyline. Like, technically, it's fine. It does a good job at setting up, okay, she's still controlling her power. She still doesn't understand a lot of words, but she is getting a small vocabulary building. But I just don't like the fallout. It just annoys me that we spent 3 issues setting up this, no, you can call New York your home here with this other superpowered person. And in the end, it's just, no, my life is too dangerous. I have to live on my own. That sucks. So I'm going to give this one I'll give it a 7 just because I feel like 6.5 is too low. I think that it is still competent. It is still decently well done, but I am upset with it. I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. Green Lantern Corps number 11, written by Peter Tomasi, art by Fernando Pasarin. Last issue left off with the Alpha Lanterns fighting against this group of other Lanterns who were protecting Guy and John, and apparently draining their rings of all of their power. And this issue picks up with just the consequences of that, where they're just beating the ever-loving crap out of these Lanterns. And one of them is like, find the willpower to fight through it, guys. And everyone else is like, oh my god, we're so dead. We are absolutely dead, and there is no hope of survival. So we then see that all of them are encased in little Green Lantern construct cells, and the Alpha Lanterns say, like, you will all pay dearly for this mutiny. So we see them fly them over to the science cell, and they're like, okay, we've locked on to Guy and John's signatures. They're leaving the planet. Salak, guy in charge of the, like, all the ins and outs and all that, we need you to activate a firewall. Nobody in or out until we say so. And Salak's like, with all due respect, people need to be able to get to their lanterns, so I can't exactly do that. And they're like, well, with all due respect, we're ordering you. And he's like, well, with all due respect, screw you, signing out. And then we see the Guardians are watching over this, and it's like, wow, there's a whole lot of dissension going on around here. Should we intervene? And everyone's like, no, just let this play out a little bit, see what happens. So the Alpha Lanterns zoom out, trying to catch up with Guy and John off planet, but it turns out the whole time they were actually just more Green Lantern constructs. They weren't actually there. So they're somewhere on the planet. That's all that the Alpha Lanterns know, but they can't get a chase on them. So we see where Guy and John are. They've made their way down into the deep, like, foundry of where rings are made on the planet. It's just, like, pure willpower being pulled out from the planet. And John, as soon as he wakes up, he just clocks Guy in the face and is just like, that's for knocking me out. How dare you? He's like, yeah, I get that. Fine. Anyway, we got to find something in order to deal with the Lanterns there. Hey, there's a whole big thing of nothing but rings that are just sitting there. Let's just use all the extra rings. And as Guy goes to mess with it, it turns out that because of the raw, like, unchanged, unprocessed willpower, it's actually, like, incompatible at the moment, or at least the place where they're being held he can't get through. So it's like, all right, new plan. Let's see what else we got down here. And apparently this area is where the Guardians just keep all their failed projects. They go by the Scions, the Manhunters, the Alpha Lanterns, just a whole bunch of failed projects that they all keep down here. And John reminisces, like, it's like they were trying to make the perfect warrior. Okay, Guy, I have an idea. And he starts taking all these different parts from all these different things and starts fusing them together. So then we cut back to the science cells where the Lanterns are being held, and Kilowog's being tortured by the Alpha Lanterns, and they're like, hey, just tell us where they are, man. Like, you clearly know. And he's like, I don't know, diddly, and I ain't telling you anyway. So at this point, one of them steps in and is just like, hey, all right, maybe we shouldn't be torturing fellow Green Lanterns. That seems like it's a bit beyond the level of what we should be doing. And they're like, this is what we have to maintain order. We have to do whatever. And it's like, right, but this is, like, really bending the law just so we can maintain the law. Do you see the issue here? So there's some dissension even within the own ranks there. But as they're talking about it and as they're trying to figure out where John and Guy are, John and Guy show up along with a whole army of robot creations from the center of this planet. And they just straight up, full-on assault, all start attacking. Salak is even in there, and he's like, attention all Green Lanterns. There's currently a fight in the science cells. Everyone kick the Alpha Lantern's ass. So the entire rest of the Corps is now just beelining their way to attack the Alpha Lanterns. And the Guardians are still sitting there like, just keep it going. Let's see how this plays out. Let's keep going. So the fight continues on, and they're like, what are these things made of that we're not able to drain them of their willpower? And it's like, oh, they're made of raw, unprocessed willpower, which I guess isn't compatible with you guys. But they will run out. They do have a finite amount. So it's like, all right, so we just got to tear them apart or wear them down. Easy enough. So they keep on fighting, doing what they can. One of the Alpha Lanterns gets a hold on Guy and John, and it's just like, stop this now, end this peacefully, and I won't destroy you. And they're like, go to hell. We're not playing by your rules anymore. And as he's trying to do this, all these broken pieces of the robots and like other creations are forming together, like the end of Iron Giant style, where they're all just moving in, merging into one big creature, until finally the one that's holding John and Guy captive, the Alpha Lantern, he's met by this giant beast of like just this hunk of flesh and metal, and it's just like, no lantern will escape the Manhunters. And yeah, that's the ending reveal. It's very interesting to see how fast like everyone was pissed off with basically Internal Affairs. Like, I get that this is basically just a cop book, and I get that, like, Internal Affairs, when it comes from the cops being the heroes, Internal Affairs is always the bad guys. But it's so interesting to see, like, no, we're just going to straight up, like, mount an assault on them. Like, that's something else. I like it. I think it's very well told. They do a good job of laying out, like, okay, here's what Guy and John's plans are. They showed how these things were built and how they fueled them up and stuff like that. They did a good job throughout. Honestly, no, it's not even a critique. I do like the idea that some of the Alpha Lanterns are also changing. They're also like, now hold on. We're here to maintain law and order, but like we're breaking the law and order in order to maintain law. You see the scope here? Like we can't bend the laws for our own sakes and then say it's okay for other people to do it. So yeah, it's taking interesting routes. I'm very much enjoying this. I'm not sure how much specifically is left in this arc, but I gather it's going to be at least a little while. So I'm interested to see where it goes from here. Overall, I'm going to give this one a 7.5. I really do enjoy it. And yeah, not much more to say. Captain Atom number 11, written by J.T. Krul, art by Freddie Williams II. Last issue left off with Captain Atom splitting his superhero part and his human part into two separate bodies. And the human part, which I will be calling Nathaniel, immediately goes and starts hitting on Renita. Like, not even a second is wasted there. This issue picks up, apparently, the superhero part, who I will call Captain Atom, has basically gone comatose. He is asleep, and nobody can figure out why, because he's never actually really needed to sleep since he got his powers. And so he's being analyzed in the lab, trying to figure out what in the heck's going on in there. So meanwhile in Kansas City, Renita and Nathaniel are just hitting it off. They're at a ice cream place. Just Nathaniel's chowing down. He's like, I didn't need to eat when I was Captain Atom, so I forgot how to taste. Like, everything is just so good. It's fantastic. And so Renita's like, are you sure this is real? Like, are you sure that there's no part of Captain Atom? Like, and he's like, I can't feel any. And like, that part of me is just chilling back at the lab. I'm just Nathaniel. And he basically starts really leaning into like, oh, I could even touch you, wink, wink. And Renita's like, you do understand I am seeing Scott, right? Like, even if we're not doing anything, I kind of feel like we're cheating a little bit. Like, I'm sure that's not what you were intending, right? And he's like, well, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it, but no, I need time to reconnect. I need time to be human again. So yeah, no, I don't want to mess anything up with you. And Renita's like, yeah, okay, we'll see. So then we see the Captain Atom part, and we see Magala is just talking to him, and he's like, I don't know why you're asleep. Like, why are you ignoring us now? Is humanity not worth it to you anymore? Are you that far above the level of godhood? Like, I made you, man. You may think you're a god, but you have your powers thanks to me. So Magala's getting a little bit cuckoo in the coconut. Then we see a scientist named Benjamin who's just handling some late night work, and that was shoved on him at the last minute. And as he's working on it, all of a sudden next to him appears this little treasure chest looking object. And he calls down Magala and Dr. Scott and basically says, hey, look, this thing just appeared. But here's the thing about it. This is an exact duplicate of this treasure chest I had when I was a child. Like, it is definitely the exact same one. And Scott's like, this must be Captain Atom. Don't touch that thing. It's probably going to explode or something. Like, we need to figure out what the heck he's doing. And Magala's like, he's asleep, dude. Maybe this is what he does in his dreams, but we can't communicate with him right now. Like, we don't know what's going on. And so Scott storms out, and he's like, man, screw this. I'm not sticking around getting radiation poisoning because of his hiccups. And he tries calling Renita, leaves a message saying, like, hey, it's a good thing you didn't show up today because things are kind of crazy here. By the way, I really, really like you. Like, I really hope you know that. And he sends, like, cute little text messages to her. But then as he makes his way down the hallway, he sees a woman at the end. And he's like, ma'am, you can't be here. Ma'am, what are you doing? And he turns the woman around, and it's his mother, who apparently died quite some time ago. And he's like, what the hell is this? And Magala goes and talks to Captain Adam, and it's just like, are you doing this? I know you're asleep, but is this you? Are you doing this? Have you gone from granting miracles and switching over to wishes now? Like, what is going on inside your head? I will, and basically I like this one line here of Magala says, what about my wish, my desires? Or like a god, are you testing me, requiring me to prove my worth? If that's the case, you shall wait forever. I'm not interested in jumping through hoops for the likes of you, Nathaniel. I just like that little bit here. However, as he's saying that, Magala stands up from his chair, saying what he wants, and he goes and he immediately just flies like a fireball out into deep space, and we see him just taking in the entirety of the cosmos, and he just keeps on saying how, I want to know, and he just zooms off into deep space. There's something to that, so hold on. So Renita and Nathaniel are walking in the park, and he sees a little pond nearby, and he's like, oh my God, I've wanted to do this for so long. And he starts taking off his socks and shoes. And Renita's like, what are you doing? You got to be crazy if you think I'm going to. And then we see that he's just putting his feet on the grass because it's been forever since he's felt feet on his grass. It's always just felt like pressure against atoms when he was Captain Atom. And so he's like, what do you mean? Did you think I was going to skinny dip? And she's like, no. And he's like, you totally did. We can if you want to. And she's like, shut up. We're not doing that. But, it gets a little bit of flirtiness between them. And he gets up against her, and they basically just share a very tender moment, and they share a kiss. So there's that. Meanwhile, cut back to Scott, who's talking to his mother, and she's just like, wow, you've grown up a lot. You're a doctor now? And he's like, oh, screw you, Captain Adam. And the mother's like, what? I don't understand. I'm scared. Tell me what's going on, Scott. And he's like, you're not my mom. My mom's dead. I don't know what you are. You're a sick imitation. You're a freak. I hate you. And the mom's like, no, Scotty, please, don't do that. So he runs off, and he's like going to just yell and shred into Captain Adam. But then we see Captain Adam is still asleep, but he's like to some level experiencing all this. We see Magala, who's unconscious in his chair. So he didn't actually zoom off to deep space, but he's not mentally there anymore. We see Scott upset at his mom. We see Nathaniel sharing a kiss. And then we see that last scientist who's looking at the chest. He hasn't opened it yet until finally now he creaks it open. He looks inside. And everything inside, everything from his childhood is still there, exactly as he left it. But as soon as he picks up one of it, it bursts into flames. And the flames immediately just consume the scientist. And he just starts boiling alive as he screams out in pain. And that's where we leave off on that happy note. I mean, I really like this. I don't know why it's happening, but it is just setting up this interesting little mystery of like, okay, what does infinite cosmic power do when A, it's not limited by its humanity anymore, and B, it falls asleep? Like, what happens when it dreams? So I'm definitely intrigued by that. I want to see how it turns out. We are, I believe, in the last arc of this book. I believe it ends in 2 or 3 issues. So definitely looking to see how they decide to wrap up Captain Atom's story. But I've been loving this throughout. This particular issue is no exception. I'm going to go and give this one I'm giving it a high 7.5. Not quite an 8. It doesn't quite strike me as like amazing because it is just the setup to what we're going to be doing these last few issues. It's just getting ready for that story. It's not doing anything particularly on its own yet, but setting up this wish granting sort of motif to it. I'm definitely interested in that as a concept. So 7.5 from me. Definitely interested and looking forward to seeing how we manage to wrap all this up. DC Universe Presents number 11, written by James Robinson, art by Bernard Chang, aka Part 3 and the finale of the Vandal Savage arc, which, gonna be honest, a little disappointed that there's only 3 parts, but so be it. Last issue left off with Cassidy being captured by the Killer and Vandal Savage getting out of his confinement and seemingly running away. So then we cut to the past where we have Steven, a little boy who's just getting out of school. And as soon as he gets home, his mom is crying over the news where we see that Jonathan Savage is found as the Cherry Blossom Killer. And it turns out that Steven's father was the FBI agent who found out and tracked down Vandal Savage. And as such, he was killed by Vandal Savage that day. So Stevie holds a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. And basically Cassidy's like, dude, your dad, yeah, no, he was a genius. He was super smart. And like every class at Quantico, there's a whole class on just the achievements of your father and like what he did in order to track down my dad. Like 100%, no one's disagreeing your dad is super smart. So why are you doing all this? And he basically just says, like, my father didn't deserve to die. So the only reason I'm reenacting all of these Vandal Savage murders is to trick you into letting Vandal Savage out of jail, in which he will come to me, and then I will kill him. That's the whole plan. By the way, he looks super grotesque and, like, disgusting looking with, like, super long, slender arms and disgusting, like, long nails. He just chalks that up to puberty. Like, nothing happened. He didn't, like, make a deal with any god. He just looks like that. Anyway, so yeah, Cassie's like, all right, well, here's your big plan falling to pieces because we already sent my dad away. Like, he's not coming here, so I don't know what you want to do. And he's like, well, I guess I'm going to kill you and the other hostage girl I still have here. And she's like, you can kill me because I'm, Vandal Savage's daughter, but if you're not going to get to him, you may as well just let her go. And he's like, I'll consider it after I kill you. But as he's about to kill Cassidy, we see Vandal Savage showing up in the door. And it's like, all right, fight time. So they get into just this long fight. And we see moments throughout Cassidy's past, which are told, I'm guessing from her perspective, of times that Vandal Savage was actually like a good dad to her. Like, shielded her from the things he did, but like was still a father, taught her like how to fly a kite and stuff like that. And throughout the entire fight scene, basically Steven is just like, you killed my dad, he was a genius. And Vandal Savage is like, dude, I am immortal. I have lived next to people who have created things that you need just to survive. Like, I've lived with geniuses. Your dad was smart. No, don't get me wrong. Yeah, he's smart. I'd even call him intelligent. But a genius? Nah. He's an idiot compared to the real geniuses. So they all get into a fight or whatever. And in the end, Steven does actually manage to knock down Vandal Savage, get him on the ropes. And he's like, look, it doesn't matter. I can't die. Like, I'm just going to win by you dying eventually. And he's like, well, let's just see about that. But before Steven manages to kill Vandal Savage, quote unquote, Cassidy gets up and just shoots him multiple times, one through the head. And he's like, let's not. So at that point, Vandal's getting up and he's just like, all right, well, nice seeing you, daughter. Have a nice rest of your life. I'm out. And she's like, Dad, please don't. And he's like, look, I know you want me to be your dad. I understand. But that's just not going to happen. Like, I can't go back to prison, so I'm just going to go. She's like, you didn't let me finish. Dad, please don't make me shoot you. And she's like, again, little baby girl, I am immortal. I cannot die. And she's like, you really believe that? And it's just like, yeah, but either way, you're leaving here in chains or a body bag. So she keeps on talking to him, keep on telling him, like, he's like, are you really going to do this? And he's like, yeah, I really would. And he's like, you shoot your own father? And she's like, not this time. Because all she was doing the entire time was just stalling long enough for the rest of the team to show up, because he did knock a helicopter out of the sky. Like, it was going to get some more people showing up. So they got him dead to rights and managed to get him all hooked up, put him back in his cell. And Cassie's like, well, it's nice to talk to you, Dad, but I'm out. So, and honestly, like, you just remind me of so much of my bad times in my life. I don't think I'm going to come back again. And she's like, yeah, maybe not. I think you're going to come back, though. He's like, all right, well, not if I can help it. Bye, Dad. So he leaves, and then Vandal starts throwing up, and we see that he managed to smuggle a key into his cell, and he, of course, is going to break out again. But that's where we leave off. Next issue is something about Kid Flash. So I like it. I really do like the Vandal Savage storyline. I think it was a nice little ultra bare bones version of Silence of the Lambs with a bit more of a familial tie in there. I definitely enjoyed it. I wish it was longer because it did just feel so, not even compressed. Like, it told the story it needed to tell, but I felt like there was so much more it could have done. Like, I really wish this were a miniseries or something like that, which I guess you could ostensibly say that this is just a collection of miniseries, but there was so much more that could be done, and I was so interested in it, and they just didn't bother with it. So, either way, the villain's motivation was a little bit weak, but with what time they had, they did what they could, and honestly, it works well enough. It's still weird to me that he just looks that way because of rage and puberty, but regardless, overall, I'm going to give this one, honestly, I think I'm going to give it an 8.5, and that's not so much on the issue itself, which may seem unfair, but it is for the 3 issues collectively. I think it's just a nice sampling, not really of Vandal Savage, because it would require you actually seeing that he is immortal to really be a good Vandal Savage story, but it's a good story of the legend of Vandal Savage, of you come across this guy who claims he's immortal. Like, you don't have any proof to that, but he has such knowledge. Like, it's just a good little insight from an outsider's perspective. I really do enjoy that. So, yeah, no, 8.5, and we'll see what happens next time with a Kid Flash story. Justice League number 11, written by Jeff Johns, art by Ivan Reis. Last issue left off with Graves attacking the Justice League, showing them all their worst nightmares or memories or whatever like that, and then seemingly leaving. This issue picks up with him already gone. Everyone's still suffering from their nightmares. Batman's the first to shake out of it because his whole life is a nightmare. And we see that his parents getting shot, you know, the typical thing. He shakes Superman out of his, and we see that Superman, his memory was his father having a heart attack, which I'm not entirely sure is the canon right now, but worth keeping in mind at least. And everyone else says what theirs were. Until finally Cyborg's like, okay, here's the deal. Graves teleported out. He went to a house in D.C. that belongs to a Tracy Trevor, which is Steve Trevor's sister. And then we cut over to Graves inside the house, who's basically just like looking over some family pictures while Tracy's sitting there, just tormenting her constantly of like, oh, you're going to die soon. You're going to die soon. And he recounts like, look, I was given my powers by the Ashura to bring down false gods, and I see false gods as the Justice League, so that's what I'm going to do. And Tracy's like, where's Steve? To which Graves says, oh, don't worry, you won't have to watch him suffer, as I had to watch my family suffer. And then as he's recounting his family's loss or whatever, Justice League boom tooms in, and as soon as they do, Graves just teleports out again, and they're like, crap, all right, well, let's not jump ahead of ourselves. And Tracy just breaks down crying, and it's just like, Wonder Woman steps up like, hey, Tracy, you okay? He's like, this is all because you were in his life. He loved you, and what did you ever do to him? You suck, Wonder Woman. And Wonder Woman's like, I promise I will bring him home. So at that point, they all step outside, police are there, and they're just recounting like, yeah, that's David Graves. He wrote a book about us. The book managed to change public perception and make us like, you know, household names and heroes, people that are trusted. Apparently he had his whole family die shortly afterwards. They all fell ill to a mysterious illness, and then he did as well. So maybe they were infected by something from like Darkseid that we missed. Either way, the only other location we have for him is a cabin way up out in the Maine. So maybe we should check there. And at that point, Wonder Woman just starts walking away. And it's just like, I'm going to Graves' cabin. You can't stop me. And it's just like, look, that's fine, but we need to take this slowly. And you literally cannot go and kill him. And we're not doing that. And it's like, no, you all are taking too long, and I am definitely going to go kill him. That's my way of doing things. At which point, Green Lantern like puts her in a bubble. And she's like, hey, look, just calm down. Let's take a minute. We all know how much Steve means to you. He means that much to us too, but you just need to take a minute. And Wonder Woman's like, Green Lantern, let me out now. And he goes, no. To which Wonder Woman shatters his bubble, and then they start getting into a massive fight. And at this point, people are watching. Like, there are other people around watching the Justice League fight. Superman tries stepping in and like calming down Wonder Woman. He gets kicked in the face. And then Cyborg calls in being like, hey, Batman, I don't know how this is happening, but this fight is being broadcast like all over the world. Like people are watching the Justice League fight each other, and Batman's like, crap, okay, we got to get out of here. Cyborg, boom tube us out. And so he boom tubes them all to Graves' cabin, to which immediately Wonder Woman's like, hey, I don't need help from you, Green Lantern. You treat this like a game. And it's like, do you know what's going on in my book? Like, I see things way worse than this. Justice League is my vacation time, more or less. To which point Superman steps up and being like, hey, Wonder Woman, we know you're worried about Steve, but he's like family to all of us. We're here to help. And she's like, okay, Superman, thanks. Green Lantern's like, I literally said that exact same thing. Why? All right, screw it, whatever. So at this point, they're trying to figure out, all right, what's going on with Graves? And Batman manages to piece together that he went to a mountain and he knows about the legend of this place, of the Asrar or whatever, the Valley of the Souls. And so they boom tube over to the Valley of the Souls, and as it turns out, nobody can see an entrance to this place except for Cyborg. He's the only one who can. And Batman says, like, it turns out the people who are, like, dying and or close to death are the only people who can see the entrance, to which Cyborg is like, is my human half dying? And Batman's like, no, definitely not. No, definitely not. No, you're good. We'll deal with it. So they all make their way inside, and these spirits start, like, coalescing around him. And Batman sees his parents. Green Lantern sees his dad. Everyone just sees their own little nightmares, until finally Cyborg sees himself, and he's like, that's not a good sign. And Wonder Woman sees Steve Trevor, who says, you're too late, Diana. I'm already dead. Okay. It seems a bit murky as to what it wants to do here. I get the idea of, okay, you want to tear these gods down, and you want to, like from Graves' perspective, you see the Justice League as these people who let you down personally, and you want to tear them down as well. To which point, the fight thing being broadcasted all over the world, I really get that. That seems perfectly in line with his plan, but it also didn't seem like anything he could have planned. That was just because Green Lantern is the one who tried to stop Wonder Woman. If Superman did it, I don't think that would have worked out as easily. So the part that seems to be the most in line with what he's saying is also the part that didn't seem like it was in his control at all. The stuff that is in his control is these weird spirit things, which I get are emotionally testing, but I don't see how they really tear down. They're just making them relive bad memories, which aren't, that's not tearing down the public perception of them. It may break down their will to fight or whatever, but that's not public perception. I feel like we're just getting a little bit muddled in the weeds here. Add in this new Cyborg thing of, is he actually dead or dying, and this like is on life support more or less, which I think the obvious answer here is yes. Clearly he was dead and or dying and is now on life support, but I guess we're making a story out of it, so whatever. It just seems a little bit muddled on what Graves actually wants here, and more specifically why he is such a threat. Like, he's able to teleport and he's able to bring in spirits, but like, if I shoot him, would he die? He doesn't seem that impervious. He just seems like a dude in like skull makeup. So I don't know. It's just a little bit murky for me personally. I don't think this arc lasts particularly that long, so I'm not that plussed about it. But in terms of rating, I'm giving this one a 7, but like a full point of that is just on art and the pacing of it. I really like the way the story is told and how it looks, but in terms of the actual story itself, that's probably close to like a 6, if not a 5. So whatever with this Graves thing. I feel like they managed to just suss out everything he's doing immediately after figuring it out, which admittedly is not a complex character. He literally took his name from his last name. That seems pretty easy, but I don't know. It's only a 7 for me, and I don't know how long this arc will go on for, but hopefully it can manage to pick up before the end. Wonder Woman number 11, written by Brian Azzarello, art by Cliff Chang. We left off last issue with the whole Hades wedding to Wonder Woman, blah, blah. It doesn't really apply to this issue. So this issue picks up with Strife showing up with Hera, and she's like, hey, Mom, you missed a hell of a time down there. And Hera's like, yeah, that's great. Moving on with the plot, I put a price on Zola's head. I made a deal with one of them, and therefore her time is very limited, and as is her bastard child. So then we cut to Coloma, Michigan, who we see Demeter, and I specifically looked it up how to pronounce it, so don't give me any of that, and Artemis. And they're just basically talking, saying like, hey, Zeus's seat is still unfilled. It's going to have to be filled pretty soon. Artemis brings up the prophecy of a child who is going to kill all of their siblings in order to get to Zeus's throne. And Demeter's like, yeah, there's probably going to be some blood. It's probably going to happen. So what of it? Then we cut over to Oliveburn, Virginia, where Zola, Hermes, and Wonder Woman are sitting in a clinic. And Hermes is just giving Zola so much crap of like, you are literally carrying a godly child and you want it looked at in this podunk clinic. And her number's called and she starts making her way back. And Hermes tries to follow, but Zola just immediately shuts him out. And Wonder Woman's like, hey, just give her some space. She's trying to control this one thing in her life. Let's let her have it. I'm sure they'll do a perfectly fine job. And if not, we'll be here to protect her. And as they say that, the sun literally starts blotting out from the sky. And they look up and they see it isn't an eclipse. It is literally the sun and the moon joining together. And on cue, Apollo and Artemis ride up on a motorcycle. And they're here to collect the bounty on Zola's head. And there's a brief standoff, and they get introduced to Lennox, who's also there. And after a while, they're like, okay, well, if you're going to try to defend her, then we're going to have to go through you. And Apollo immediately just blasts Lennox. He's, of course, okay with invulnerability and all, but it comes down to a fight between Wonder Woman and Apollo, who Wonder Woman is getting pretty handily handed to her, and Hermes and Artemis, who is a bit more even. But in the middle of the fight with Artemis, Lennox comes up and tries to punch her in the face, to which his hand crumbles, and then she turns around, punches him in the chest, and his entire rib cage just caves in. And then Apollo, standing over top of Wonder Woman, is like, hey, you're going to die here, but how long have you even been alive? And she's like, 23 years. And she's like, seriously? That's how, okay, well, call it a juvenile mistake, but it'll be your last. And at this point, Zola, hearing all the hubbub, has jumped into a car, put it in drive, and has run headfirst into Apollo, who just stands there and takes it because he literally didn't even feel it. He just looks back and he's like, oh, hey, there she is. Yeah, we're just going to take her now. And Zola gets out of the car and shoots Apollo with a shotgun. Again, doing nothing. But he's like, all right, nice to meet you too. Yoink. And he picks her up. Artemis at this point has beaten Hermes and has taken his staff, which seems to be drenched in some amount of blood. I don't know from whom, but they both hop onto Apollo's motorcycle and drive away. And everyone starts licking their wounds, standing up. And as they look over at Lennox, they're like, Lennox, are you okay? And he's like, nah, I'm pretty much done here. It's been good. So we cut over to Olympus, and Zola is being welcomed, quote unquote, by Hera, and she's like, oh, welcome to heaven. And Zola's like, am I dead? And she's like, no, you're not dead, not yet, but you're going to wish you were after I get done with you. And she's like, hey, Zeus did not tell me that he was married. And Zola, her just gets down. It's like, would that have even mattered? And Zola just pauses and just, probably not. To which Strife is like, I admire you just being brutally honest here. Bravo. So anyway, Apollo steps up and he's like, all right, I'm here to claim my deal, because he made a deal with Hera. And as it turns out, he's claiming the throne. He's able to step in by Hera's deal and taking the righthood of the throne. To which Hera's totally good with it. He's like, all right, Apollo, bastard son, the throne is yours. I'm not going to stand in your way. But then as soon as she says that, there's another blinding light, and teleporting in is Wonder Woman and Hermes, saying like, well, if you're not going to stand in his way, we will. That's where we leave off with that. I think there's only one issue left in this arc, or at least this trade. Obviously, the whole long thing is an arc, and I don't know where we're going to end up. All the pieces are in one place, and we're literally on Mount Olympus with the throne right there. So it seems like whoever's going to claim it is going to claim it next issue. So I'm definitely intrigued to see who it's going to be. Overall, I enjoyed it. I think art-wise, good. I think they could have they've been seeding Apollo throughout this entire run. I think that they did a good job of doing so. I wish they would have given a little bit more on Artemis if they were going to have it be a tag team fight, because it doesn't seem any reason why, at least for right now, the Sun and the Moon would join up and Artemis seemingly gets nothing out of it. It just seems like did it for the sake of doing it. So I'm going to give this one an 8.5. I really do enjoy the way these gods are represented and the way that it is just a petty-ass Game of Thrones style, like, who's it going to be? Who's going to take control? And all this backstabbing and deal-making. I really do enjoy the most of it. So, yeah, no, 8.5, and I'm looking forward to seeing how at least this trade, if not the arc, wraps up as a whole. Blue Beetle number 11, written by Tony Bedard, art by Ig Guara. Last issue we left off with Jaime making his way out of the DEO and Booster Gold showing up to the offices of Superfail. Because, yeah, whatever. We open up with a daytime talk show of Newstime AM, where they're talking to the founder of Superfail, basically saying like, oh, what about this pet project of yours, Blue Beetle? Why is he such a thing? And it's just like, because he's a dick, and he's a public menace, and he hit that girl. And the host is like, well, yes, that may be true, but some people see it differently. Please welcome a spokesperson for the metahuman community, Booster Gold. And Booster Gold just flies in and is just like, hey, everyone, make sure you're eating your Boosteros. And so he has a seat and basically just starts it back and forth with the Superfail guy. And what it all really comes down to is that Booster's like, hey, Blue Beetle, I understand this looks bad, but you can come and talk to me because I'm here to help. I think you are just looking for someone to guide you, and that's what we're here for at Justice League International and whatnot. So come here and tell us your story. I'm all on your side. And Blue Beetle sees this, obviously, and he's like, well, yeah, no, clearly, let's go do that. Let's track him down. And immediately the suit is like, didn't you literally say last issue that you weren't interested in a mentor anymore? And he's like, okay, shut up, because things are different now. We also see that Paco and Brenda have made their way to New York. They're currently in the airport, and they're trying to figure out where Jaime is, and the only lead they have is Jaime's grandma's address, which was given to Paco by his Jaime's dad. So they're making their way over there as quickly as they can. We see that Director Bones of the DEO is seeing Booster Gold's broadcast, and he's like, well, I don't know what Gold's playing at, but he's part of the UN, and the last thing I need is to have my department absorbed by Argus. But they get a hit on a nearby sensor or something like that Blue Beetle's signature has been spotted again. But when they view who it is, it's Paco and Brenda, because Paco still has that thing in his body keeping him alive. So there's that. So anyway, he did reach out, talk to Booster, and they decided to meet up on Liberty Island next to the Statue of Liberty. And Booster's just standing there as Jaime flies in. He's like, you're late. And Blue Beetle's like, yeah, no, I'm sorry. Look, I've been so nervous about this, and I'm really happy to come out and meet. I've had pretty rotten luck since I've got here, but I mean, hey, I'm more than happy to do whatever. By the way, you say you're from the future. Like, do you know like the results of the Super Bowl and stuff like that? Because I mean, you can make a pretty penny with the. And then Booster just pounds him, just punches him across the face. He goes skipping across the water, and Booster keeps up the attack constantly. And Jaime's immediately like, dude, you said you were going to help me. What the heck? And Booster's like, yeah, you're right. I am from the future. And in the future, I may not remember the little things like Super Bowls or whatever, but what I do remember is the Reach doing an attack on Earth. And so many people died, you wouldn't believe it. And I recognize Reach scarabs, and you are definitely one of them. So I'm here to take you out before you take out the planet. To which Blue Beetle just immediately attacks Booster. He's like, you tricked me. I thought we were going to be friends. And he's like, psh, we're not going to be friends in this lifetime or any other. So big fight breaking out there. Meanwhile, Brenda and Paco make their way to Jaime's grandma's apartment. Nobody's answering the door. But apparently she's not even there at the moment. And there's this woman who pops out from the stairwell next to the building, and she's like, "Oh, you're going to." I did a reading for the grandmother this morning and found that she is going to find her grandson down by the river or whatever, down by the harbor. So try Washington Square, and that's where I saw her coming. And it's like, okay, cool, great. Thank you, crazy lady. So they realize the grandmother has to be down in Washington Square if she believed this crazy lady. So they're going to get some food first and then make their way down there. But before they can, they're interrupted by some DEO agents who, of course, are after Paco. They end up tasing him and taking him in for questioning. So cut back to the fight, which is in Washington Square Park. And it's just basic arguing back and forth, whatever. But Blue Beetle keeps on trying to plead his case to Booster. And at a certain point, he slips into Spanish. He's like, "I'm not a monster. Please stop attacking me," whatever. Booster, of course, couldn't understand that. And he starts really laying it down on Blue Beetle until finally, looks like Jaime's out for the count. Booster's about to do like a finishing blow. He's like, even if you were just a kid, you've got that scarab on you, and there's nothing to save you from that scarab. You're a slave to it. All I can do is put you out of your misery. To which, as soon as he's about to fire, he gets a walker to the back of the head, and we see Jaime's grandma just like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Is this how you react to all aliens? Like all illegal immigrants? You have a problem because he's speaking Spanish?" And Booster's like, "What? No. Like, I know you don't. I'm from the future. Like, this is a thing." And they start like caring for Blue Beetle, and Booster's like, "I'm gonna need you to step away from the alien, man." It's like, "Oh, alien, huh? I bet you like that, white guy." And then immediately Booster's like, "You just interrupted. This was actually just a test to see if Blue Beetle would be good to join Justice League International. And I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed. So, Blue Beetle, how about you give me a call at some point? Goodbye." And Booster just runs. And then Jaime's grandma turns to him, and she's like, "Hey, you should have came to me the moment you got into town." And Jaime's like, "You know who I am?" And she's like, "Whatever, let's go meet back at my place. I'm not going anywhere with you dressed like that." So yeah, Jaime's now with his grandma. Anyway, we go back to the DEO, where they are currently trying to basically cut open Paco and figure out where this technology is inside of him. And as they cut him open, they see the thing wrapped around his heart, and they try poking it a little bit, to which it immediately lashes out and starts killing all of the doctors around. Alarms start going off. Director Bones tries rushing into the room, but before he can, the whole room explodes, and we see that Paco is back in his, black beetle armor? Red beetle armor? Whatever it was. He's back in the armor that he was in before. So, once again, Paco is after Jaime. I like it. I think it's solid. I think from the other book, from Justice League International, it's kind of a stretch that Booster would do this. It doesn't really seem in character, but with the threat of total planetary annihilation, I could see him making that leap. It's not a terribly far jump, but it is a bit weird to see him just be such an unrighteous dick. So overall, I've been enjoying this. I continue to enjoy this. I have no real issues with it at all. I do think it's a bit weird how last issue he said, "I'm done looking for a mentor," and then we just keep doing the mentor thing. Like, you could have just had him not say that line, and that would have been enough. I would have been just like, "Oh, okay. He's still looking for a mentor." But instead, we just doubled back for what I guess is just the sake of a joke. I don't know. Bit weird. Either way, I'm going to go ahead and give this one an 8 out of 10. I really do enjoy it. Art is pretty good throughout. It's Iguara, who's pretty much been on the book the entire time, so I have no issues with that at all. Definitely looking forward to seeing how it continues. Legion of Superheroes number 11, written by Paul Levitz, art by Francis Portela and Andre Guinaldo. Last issue, we left off with the whole team of, ex-Legion members, whatever you want to call them, who are currently trying to find Brainiac 5 and Dreamstar. I can't remember their names anymore. So anyway, they're making their way to the Dominator's world, and apparently they disguise themselves as a very large asteroid or something like that. And so all the ships just move out of the way and let it crash towards the planet. And as they get closer in, they disperse and show the rest of the team is, hidden inside of it. And they all start making their way down to the planet, trying to figure out where they are. They have, what's his name? Mwindaji, that's his name, doing his tracking skills in order to find the scent of Brainiac and Stargirl or whatever. I know it's not Stargirl, but I genuinely can't remember it. So I'm just going to call her Stargirl. Dream Girl. I'll call her Dream Girl. So at this point, they crash on the planet, and the Dominators see this happening, and it's just like, that's something. It's weird that this comet came this close to the planet, but whatever. I guess we'll just ignore it for now. So we cut over to Brainiac and Dream Girl, who are just basically talking like, hey, it's kind of weird that nobody hasn't come yet to get us, right? And Brainiac's like, I'm sure it's some political thing, some political hoo-ha that's stopping them, but regardless, we will find a way out of this. And we see that immediately the Dominators are coming in and they're ready to make their final moves on Dream Girl and Brainiac 5. And they go to inject them with something to which they fight back against, but then immediately everybody, including the Dominators, start losing their focus for some reason. And I'm not sure why. It just, Brainiac has an unnatural effect. Okay? But then the roof comes crashing in, and it's the rescue team. And what basically happens is just a moderately long fight scene. They knock out everybody in the room. But then Brainiac specifically says, like, hey, they took my force field belt. I'm not leaving without that. And they're like, dude, it's tough. We're leaving. And he's just like, no. Like, you can leave. I'm staying until I get it. So Mwindaji finds that it's through the portal nearby. So they make their way through because they're going to stick together as a team regardless. And then we got back to Earth where Mon-El is basically being chewed out by Cosmic Lad. Just like, hey, you were supposed to be a leader. That's why you were voted in this place. And we're just sitting here doing nothing. And Mon-El immediately lashes back like, I'm doing everything I can. I let those guys go in order to make the best option that we have. And I've been looking for other options the whole time. I'm trusting the life of our fellow Legionnaires into this team that was thrown together in like 5 minutes. So give me a break. So that just happens. We don't ever even cut back to it. But anyway, they make their way to the place where this belt was being picked apart and tried to figure out how to use it. And they see that they ended up destroying some Legion flight rings. And they're like, why would you destroy? This is stupid. No one else can make a Legion flight ring. So he manages to track that it's inside of a certain wall, and it doesn't seem like there's any way to access it. But then Brainiac just touches it a few times, and it just springs open, to which everyone's like, dude, how did you do that? And he's like, I don't tell you guys all my powers, wink. So at that point, a couple more Dominators show up, another fight scene breaks out. And they're all fighting, but seemingly losing, like they are on the lower hand here. And at a certain point, Brainiac is in hand-to-hand combat with one of the Dominators, who's like, oh, we will find out what makes you so special. And he's like, I'm what makes me so special. You can't get the soul of me or whatever. And then all of a sudden he's blasted with fire. And we find out that Comet Queen, I believe her name is betraying the group for some reason. She just says, that's like a present, Starshine, from someone who really, really didn't like you. And then Dream Girl just bitch smacks her and says, you're the one who I saw betray us in my vision. Why? To which she doesn't respond. But the rest of the team is all knocked out, except for Comet Queen. And the Dominators take them all hostage and be like, cool. Let's bring them all to the Primus Dominator and see what they want to do with this one who helped us. And that's it. Okay. It follows the story. I'm okay with it happening, but I'm so uninterested. And that's just me. I'm not intrigued by this Legion thing. They've given me no reason to care. They're relying on me already having feelings for Dream Girl and Brainiac 5, but I don't. They never have developed them as interesting characters. They're just relying on you knowing them already. And especially with this secondary team of Triplicate Girl and I don't even know who else. Like, I don't care about none of these characters I have any interest in. And that's honestly a fault of the fact that there's like 80 characters and you're trying to give focus to all of them. I don't like it. That's just on me. Maybe if you were into Legion, this would be better, but I can't speak from that mindset. And especially with this betrayal out of nowhere from Comic Queen. Like, this wasn't seeded, and I don't know anything about Comic Queen. I don't know if she's like all I know is she's really into Bouncing Boy, which I don't even know why I know that. That doesn't seem critical at all. So no, overall, I give this one... See, I don't want to be too hard in case it is something good to people who actually like the Legion. But for me personally, like, I want to give it a 4. But I'll bump it up to a 5 on the offhand that people who are really into Legion like this. I will say, this is something I found out. Between the issue itself, like the individual single printed issue, to the trade, the individual single printed issues kept the name back, like boxes of all the characters. Like every issue, the first appearance of each character, they would get their little name box popping up. So you'd be able to remember them. For some unforsaken reason, they took those out of the trade, making it impossible to read. So that's just on DC editorial. I guess I can't blame the issue itself on that. That's on editorial, but it's how I'm reading it, so it sucks. And that's it. That's all the comics that came out from DC Comics this July 18th, 2012. And like I said at the beginning, very bland, very average, with the points being basically all 6s and 7s. It's just a bleh sort of week, and I don't really have anything more to add on to that, so let's get into next week's comics, which also seem a little bit average, but do have a few little spicy things in there. So, July 25th, 2012, we have 14 comics, including the number 11 issues of Batman the Dark Knight, Superman, Green Lantern New Guardians, Aquaman, The Flash, The Fury of Firestorm, Savage Hawkman, All-Star Western, Voodoo, Teen Titans, iVampire, and Justice League Dark. Additionally, we have a new one-shot as part of a anthology collection of series, I guess you call them, and that is National Comics Eternity #1. In DC's own words, I believe it was National Comics is to provide a spotlight for lesser-known DC characters written by some cool writers and whatnot. That one's actually written by Jeff Lemire, so definitely interested in checking out that one. Also, double dose, as I said, of Green Lantern. Not sure why that is. I'm going to guess that Green Lantern, the proper normal book, not New Guardians, just got delayed because it was especially supposed to come out last week. There wasn't a Green Lantern book that whole week. So, that's going to do it for me. Thank you very much for watching and listening. Where can you find me? Almost forgot about contractual obligations. Twitter, @DC Comics Podcast. All one word. Tell me what you thought of these books, or the books I'm going to talk about soon, or just tell me how your day's going. I'm a very easy listening guy. Additionally, we have a Patreon, Mild Fuzz TV. You go ahead and pay into that, and for as low as $1, you can get something. I'm not entirely sure what. I'm not a good salesman. But that'll do it for me, as I already said. Thank you very much for watching and or listening. It is always appreciated. And try to remember that if it ain't broke, don't fix it.